Welcome everyone to this session of VARC ASER by Inside IIM. Today we are going to discuss slot 3 paper of VARC of the year 2021. So till now you all have gone through two videos of slot 1 and slot 2, and you must have realized that strategy for solving paper is customized from person to person. Like in slot 1, I share the strategy that I will use in a paper, and in slot 2 Devesh use some other strategy. So there's no one fit all strategy when it comes to VARC or for say any other section of CAT examination. So it is only about experimentation, solving mocks, and realizing which strategy suits you the best, in which way you perform the best. So that's what about it. And so today we are going to solve slot 3 paper. So my strategy would be to go through each and every question first before solving them, and thinking and realizing which question I'm more comfortable with, which topic I'm more comfortable with. So let's get started, and I'll prefer solving RCs first. So I'll go through the questions of RCs first. Today we can hardly conceive of ourselves without an unconscious. Yet between 1700 and 1900, this notion developed as a genuinely original thought. The unconscious burst the shell of conventional language, coined as it had been to embody the fleeting ideas and the shifting conceptions of several generations until finally it became fixed and defined in the specialized terms within the realm of medical psychology and Freudian psychoanalysis. So, after reading first paragraph, I can figure out that it's related something to psychology. It is a psychological article. So, it would be a kind of topic I won't be much comfortable with. So I'll keep it for the later part of the paper, and I'll try to fetch marks where I can score better. But let me go through questions as well, because there may be a case that questions are easy of this passage. So which one of the following set of word discloses into mapping the main arguments of the passage? So to solve this question, I have to go through the complete passage, and I have to realize which is the which is the central idea of the passage, and which three words correlate with the central passage the most. So which one of the following statement best describes what the passage is about? Okay. So this is also about the summary of the passage, and I'll go through the full passage. The enrichments of literary and intellectual language led to an altered understanding of the meanings that underline time-honored expression and traditional catchwords. Which one of the following interpretation of this sentence would be closest in meaning to the original? Okay. All of the following except may be considered valid inferences from the passage. Hence, this is also a type of question for which I have to read the complete passage. So let me see if I can read this passage right now. So this is a kind of dry topic which is not very interesting to read. So to read such kind of articles, what I have observed for myself that I need a kind of momentum first. Like I must be in the reading phase of mind to read such kind of dry passages. So this won't be a type of passage I would like to start my paper with. So I'll keep it for the later part. I won't leave it. I'll solve every question as long as I have time. So I'll leave it for now. Let's go through the next one. So this is the second passage. Okay. Let's start reading. Keeping time accurately comes with a price. The maximum accuracy of clock is directly related to how much order or disorder or entropy it creates every time it ticks. Natalia Aris at the University of Oxford and her colleagues made this discovery using a tiny clock with an accuracy that can be controlled. The clock consists of a 50 nanometer thick membrane of silicon nitride vibrated by an electric current. Each time the membrane moved up and down once and then returned to its original position, the researchers counted a tick, and the regularity of the spacing between the ticks represented the accuracy of the clock. The researchers found that as they increased the clock's accuracy, the heat produced in the system grew, increasing the entropy of its surrounding by jostling nearby particles. If a clock is more accurate, you are paying for it somehow, says Aris. In this case, you pay for it by pouring more ordered energy into the clock, which is then converted into entropy. By measuring time, we are increasing the entropy of the universe, says Aris. The more entropy there in the universe, the closer it may be to the eventual demise. Maybe we should stop measuring time, say Aris. The scale of the additional entropy is so small, though, that there's no need to worry about its effects, she says. Okay, so after reading this passage, what I got out of it is that it is something related to measuring time and how we can increase accuracy, and how increasing accuracy is related to the entropy of a clock. So as it has mentioned that there is spacing between the every subsequent tick of the clock, and the more it is organized, the more the entropy it will release. So that is the gist of the passage. So after reading it, I am somehow comfortable with this kind of passage because it is somewhat on scientific lines and very easy to comprehend. So this may be a kind of passage I'll like to start with, but before making any inference, let's go through the questions, because sometimes passage might be easy to read, but the questions might be tricky. So I may go through the questions here first. It's a bit like a fuel using car. Just because I'm using more fuel doesn't mean that I'm going faster or further. What is the purpose of this example? Okay. The author makes all of the following arguments in the passage except that. Okay. Which one of the following set of words, phrases serve as keywords of the passage? So till now, after only reading first paragraph, the three things that the author has talked about is measuring time, accuracy, and entropy. So till now, if I have to find which is the summary of the passage, it would be the option C. But we haven't read the whole passage, so we can't make an early conclusion. We have to read the whole passage to see if some other topic comes up and it has been taken up to the conclusion. So we won't mark option C and we'll read the whole passage first. None of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except that. Okay, fine. So this is the kind of passage I can start with. So I can start with it right away, but for the sake of reading the whole paper, let's go through the other passages as well and see if some other passage is also easy to read, and then we'll choose the priority order of the paper. So guys, you have 40 minutes to solve a paper. So the main thing that matters is time management. So if you are targeting to solve 4 passages, and like you have targeting to solve all the 24 questions that are there in the paper, so you need to manage your time in such a way that you give enough time to each and every question. For example, reading a passage might take 5 minutes for a person, and then solving questions take another 3 to 4 minutes, right? So it would be 9 minutes for a passage, and then we are left with only 4 minutes for VA section, which is quite less because there might be chances that VA has a set of easy questions where RC has set of tough questions. So I have to prioritize in such a way that I justify my time and give enough time to each and every question. So what I'll do is, I'll start with the easiest passage. I'll try to read it as soon as possible, like in 4 minutes, and then I'll solve question the next 2 to 3 minutes. So I'll give around 7 minutes to each passage if I'm solving each and every one of them, and 12 to 15 minutes is the buffer time that I'll try to devote to VA section. But there might be chances that there would be one passage which is very tough for me to read, right? So to read that kind of passage, I'll try to solve it at the time that I am left with. Like after solving every question that I'm comfortable with, where I can fetch more marks, I'll try to solve those questions first. And the RC, which is I'm not comfortable with, or set of VA questions that are not easy for me. For example, para jumbles wouldn't be easy for me because sometimes they are so tricky, and chance probability of getting the sequence correct is very less when we compare it to other kind of questions like odd one out or para summary for that matter. So I'll try to solve para jumbles at the last. Whatever time I have, I'll try to devote it to para jumble. Even if you solve 3 passages and 4 to 5 questions of verbal ability, you are solving 12 plus 7 questions, which is around 18 to 19 questions, which can fetch you above 50 marks if you solve it accurately. Even if you solve at an accuracy rate of 80%, you'll solve above 40 or 45, which is a decent and a good score. So it is not necessary that you solve each and every question of the passage or the paper, but whatever you are solving, you solve it accurately. So let's read the further questions. If there is some other questions that I would like to start with. So the next passage says, starting in 1957, Noam Chomsky proclaimed a new doctrine. Language, the most human of all attributes, was innate. The grammatical faculty was built into the infant brain, and your average 3-year-old was not a mere apprentice in the great enterprise of absorbing English from his or her parents, but a linguistic genius. Since the message was couched in the terms of Chomsky theoretical linguistics, in discourse so opaque that it was nearly incomprehensible even to some scholars, many people did not hear it. Now, in a brilliant, witty, and altogether satisfying book, Mr. Chomsky's colleague Steven Pinker has brought Mr. Chomsky's finding to every man. In the language instinct, he has gathered persuasive data from such diverse fields as cognitive neuroscience, development psychology, and speech therapy to make his points. And when he disagrees with Mr. Chomsky, he tells you so. So, this passage is all about language and how language is built in humans and how, an infant brain perceives it and how he's a linguistic genius. So, it's all about language. Again, a type of topic that I wouldn't like to start my paper with because it will take me time to read because I'm not much comfortable with these type of topics. So, let me read the further passage. Last passage from this paper. Back in the early 2000s, an awesome thing happened in the new X-Men comics. Our mutant heroes had been battling giant robots called Sentinels for years, but suddenly these mechanical overloads spawned a new threat. Nanosenators, not content to rule Earth with their metal fists, these tiny robots invaded our bodies at the microscopic level. Infected humans were slowly converted into machines, cell by cell. So after reading this passage, I get a gist of it that it is something related to comics, superheroes, and it is something that I can relate to. It is a breezy read for me. So I will like starting my paper with an easy read because it will give me momentum to read further. So this would be the passage I'll start with. Now I'll write down on a rough paper which passage, what it would be the priority order for me. So the fourth passage, which is about comics, would be something I would like to start my paper with. And then there was a passage about time, right? So that would be the second passage that I'll do in this paper. And after that, I'll switch to VA section because other two passages are something I'm not comfortable with. So I'll come back to them later on. So in VA section, I'll see which questions are easy and then I'll start with solve VA section and then I'll switch back to RC section, and out of the two RCs that I have skipped, I'll see which one is easy and I'll start with the easiest one. And if the time permits, I'll do the fourth one as well, or else I'll leave it. So if I leave the RC, I'll be scoring in the range. So I'll see if the fourth one is easy and I'll see if I do 3 accurately, that will be 12 into 3, 36. And if I do at least 5 questions correctly in BA out of 7 or 8, I'll score 15 marks. So the score would be 51, which would fetch me above 99.5 for sure. So that would be a decent score. And if I score the fourth one, let's see if I'll be able to solve that or not, or else I'll leave it, right? So let's solve this RC and then we'll switch to, and we'll see few questions from VA section as well. So we are solving one RC and few VA questions in this paper. Let's first read the question so we know what is being asked here. Which one of the following statement best summarize the central point of the passage? So what I have to go through central point. So for that, I have to read the whole passage and keep in mind what it is being talked about. The field of robotics is likely to be featured more and more in comics like the new X-Men and nano robots made from molecules that react to water have become increasingly useful. Which of the following statement best captures the sense of the first paragraph? Okay. Which one of the following scenarios, if false, could be seen as supporting the passage? Okay. If it is false, then it will support the passage, right? Which one of the following statements that would be the most direct extension of the arguments in the passage? Okay. So here numbering has been wrong. So this would be a first question. This would be the I'll just correct it for you guys. This would be the first question for us. This would be the second one. This would be the third one. And this is the fourth one. Right? So let's get started. Back in the early 2000s, an awesome thing happened in the new X-Men comics. Our mutant heroes had been battling giant robots called Sentinels for years, but suddenly these mechanical overloaded spawned a new threat, nanosentinels. Not content to rule Earth with their metal fists, these tiny robots invaded our bodies at the microscopic level. Infected humans were slowly converted into machines cell by cell. Now, a new wave of extremely odd robot is making at least part of the nano-sentinel story come true. Using exotic fabrication materials like squishy hydrogels and elastic polymers, researchers are making autonomous devices that are often tiny and that could be turned out to be more powerful than an army of terminators. So what the author says, till now these type of microscopic heroes we have only seen in comic books, but now due to effects of some researchers, this is coming true. They have been formed from squishy hydrogels and elastic polymers, and the author is further trying to explain how they work. Some are 1 centimeter blobs that can skate over water. Others are flat sheets that can roll themselves into tubes, or mastic-sized plastic coils that act as powerful muscles. No, they won't be invading our bodies and turning us into sentinels, which I personally find a little disappointing. So author use a bit of sarcasm here, but some of them could one day swim through our bloodstream to heal us. They could also clean up pollutants in water, fold themselves into different kind of vehicles for us to drive. So the author is telling us what could be the potential benefits that these nanosentinels would possess for the humanity as whole. Unlike a traditional robot, which is made of mechanical parts, these new kind of robots are made from molecular parts. The principle is the same. Both are devices that can move around and do things independently. Okay, so these are not from the now author is distinguishing these new kind of robots from the traditional kind of robots. These new kind of robots are made from molecular parts instead of mechanical parts. The principle is the same. Both are devices that can move around and do things independently. But a robot made from the smart materials might be nothing more than a pink drop of hydrogel. Instead of gears and wires, it's assembled from two kind of molecules. Okay. So now author is further distinguishing it from traditional robots that we have seen. So, but a robot made from smart materials might be nothing more than a pink drop of hydrogel. So it won't be mechanical parts that would be arranged, but it would be just a drop of hydrogel. Instead of gears and wires, it's assembled from two kind of molecules, some that love water and some that avoid it, which interact to allow to both the skate on top of a pond. Sometimes these materials are used to enhance more conventional robots. Okay. One team of researchers, for example, has developed a different kind of hydrogel that becomes sticky when exposed to a low voltage zap of electricity and then stop being sticky when the electricity is switched off. Okay. Their putty-like gel can be pasted onto the feet or wheels of a robot. When the robot wants to climb a sheer wall or a scoot across the ceiling, it can activate its sticky feet with a few volts. Once it's back on a flat surface again, the robot turns off the adhesive like a switch, like a light switch. So in the last paragraph, we have seen the author has mentioned how hydrogel possesses the properties like it is have hydrophobic and hydrophilic substances, and it has properties to stick to the surface. And now the author is further mentioning that it can stick and it can also be used to enhance the power of the conventional robots we have instead of forming a new robot itself. So that's how we are going to increase in power. So till now we have seen the first, the author says that there might be a possibility in the future that these hydrogel robots can go into our bloodstream, clean the pollutants, and thus they can be beneficial to humanity. And now the author is further mentioning the idea that how they can be used to increase the power of traditional robots. Robots that are wholly or partly made of glue are in the future that I was promised in the science fiction, but it's definitely the future I want. I'm especially keen on the nanometric scale soft robots. So the author says that robots that are wholly or partly made of glue aren't the future that I was promised in science fiction. So this is not exactly what I was promised in the science fiction, but it's definitely a future I want. The author is keen to look forward to such kind of in a future. I'm especially keen on the nanometric scale soft robots that can one day swim through our bodies. Metin City, a director at the Max Planck Institute for Intelligent Systems in Germany, worked with colleagues to prototype these tiny synthetic beasts using various stretchy materials, such as simple rubber, and seeding them with magnetic microparticles. Okay. These are assembled into a finished shape by applying magnetic fields. The result look like flowers or geometrical shapes made from Tinker Toy ball and stick modeling kits. They're guided through tubes of fluid using magnets and can even stop and cling to the sides of tube. Okay. So the author is saying how the future nanometric robots would be formed. So that's all about the passage. So the author was looking forward to nanosanitals more robots that was promised to him in the comic books back in 2000s. So the author seems a person interested in science fiction, but he says they might not be true, but a new kind of nanoparticle robots are coming into picture, and that's the passage is all about. Which one of the following statements? Which one of the following statements best summarize the central point of the passage? Once the stuff of scientific fiction, nanorobots now feature in the cutting edge scientific research. Okay. Robots will use nanorobots on the feet and wheels to climb walls on moves on ceilings. So the second point is mentioned in the passage, but will it qualify for the central point of the passage? Like in one paragraph, an idea is given that how these nanosanitary robots or nanoparticle robots can increase the power of traditional robots. But can it be assumed to be the central part? No, because other ideas have also been presented that they can be the future. These hydrogels can go and clean the pollutants and bloodstream. So this is not the central part. So we can straight away reject this option. The field of robots is likely to be featured more and more in comics, like the new X-Men. The author is not saying that they'll be featured more in the comics, but he says that what we have seen in the comics, what he has seen in the comics can be the future, and this is not the answer. Nanorobots made from molecules that react to water have become increasingly useful. The author says that the potential uses it could have, but he doesn't say that they have become increasingly useful. He just says what can be the potential benefits of these robots, and this is not the correct answer. Now we are left with only one option. Let's see if it qualifies, or if it also doesn't qualify, then we miss something, or the option that I've explained might be wrong. Which one of the following best summarize? Let's see the first option. Once the stuff of science fiction, nanorobots now featured in the cutting edge scientific research. Perfect answer, perfectly drafted, because the whole passage is about what author has read in the science fiction is now what is under research and whose potential benefits we are looking forward to. Hence, option A is the correct answer. So now the author says which one of the following statement best captures the sense of the first paragraph. Even if there would be some readers who wouldn't be much comfortable with this passage, but they must have read the first paragraph, right? So after the first paragraph, we could have solved the first question itself. So that's how we can look forward to questions. Instead of reading the whole passage, there might be few questions that can be solved with the first and the last paragraph only, because sometimes they ask for the conclusion, they sometimes ask for the introductory idea. So that way we can solve more number of questions. Which one of the following statement best captures the sense of the first paragraph? People who were infected by nanosatical robots become mutants who were called X-Men. Okay. None of the options listed here. Tiny sentinels called X-Men infected people, turning them into mutant robo overloads. Okay. The X-Men were mutant heroes who now had to battle tiny robots called nanosentinels. Let's read it once again. Let's quickly go through it. Our mutant hero had been battling giant robot called sentinels for a year. New sets now content to rule with. So there were our heroes, and now they were infected by new kind of particles, right? So the X-Men were mutant heroes, And now they have been infected by new tiny robots, which were nanosenators. So which option best summarizes this? People who were infected by nanosenator robots become mutants who were called X-Men. No, this is not the answer. None of the options. Tiny senators called X-Men infected people. No, this is not, because X-Men were our heroes. Let's read option D, or else none of the options listed here would be the answer. The X-Men were mutant heroes who now had to battle tiny robots called nanosenators. So option D is a perfect answer, as it is mentioned that X-Men were our mutant heroes and now they had to battle tiny robots. Which one of the following scenarios, if false, could be seen as supporting the passage? So we have to read this question carefully. Which one of the following, if false, would support the passage? Not true. We have to negate the statement and then see if it goes with the theme of the passage and the central idea. Nanosenator-like robots are likely to be used to inject people to convert Nanosenator-like robots are likely to be used to inject people to convert them into robots cell by cell. So let's negate this statement. So if the statement is wrong, that they are not being used to inject people and convert them into robots. So does it support the central idea about the possible use of these kind of robots? No, hence this is not the answer. These are two kind of molecules used to make some nano robots. One that reacts positively to water and then react negatively. It is true itself. So if it negates, could be used as supporting the passage. Robots made from smart materials are likely to become part of our everyday life in the future. So author says robots made are likely to be part. So this is something which is true in its original sense, and we don't need to negate it to support the passage. And this is not the right answer. Some hydrogel turn sticky when electric current is passed through them. This potentially has very useful applications. It is also true, so we don't need to negate it. So according to the options we have gone through, none of the following is the answer. So let's go through the options once again. Probably we have missed something. Nanosenator-like robots are likely to be used to inject people to convert them into robots cell by cell. Let's see. So author, where has the author mentions this kind of? So the author here mentions, no, they won't be invading our bodies and turning into senators, which I personally find a little disappointing. So if this statement, if the first statement is negated, they are not going to inject body, they are not going to, you know, turn us into robots. So if this is negative, it is something which is being mentioned in the passage and which is a correct answer. Hence option A makes sense to be the correct answer. But to be on the safer side, we can go through the rest of the options. So guys, you can do that. Let's come to the last question from this passage. Which one of the following statements is the most direct extension of the arguments in the passage? In the future, robots will be used to search and destroy diseases even in the deepest recesses of the human body. Okay. Right? This is an extension of the passage because the author says that could be the, like they can go into our bloodstream. So maybe if they go into bloodstream, they can use to purify and, you know, prevent us from diseases. So this can be an extension, but let's see if some other option makes more sense. Senatorial robots will be used in warfare to cause large-scale destructive mutation among civilians. So the author nowhere in the mentions provides something related to warfare or the destruction that can be caused by them. Hence, this is not the answer. X-Men may be created by injecting people with mutant nanogels that will be respond to the brain's magnetic field. X-Men may be created by injecting people. So X-Men were our hero. So this is not the answer. We won't be converted to them. This is not mentioned anywhere in the passage. 1 centimeter blobs of gel that are nano robots in them will be used to send messages. Let's see where these blobs are mentioned. So I remember reading 1 centimeter blob somewhere. Let's see where it is. So guys, in the exam, you may be not having that much time to go through the passage again. So as of now, I am comfortable with option 1. And I see this is an extension of this. And as far as I could remember, there was nothing related to sending messages. So I'll go forward with option 1 instead of wasting time and reading the whole passage. So I'll mark option 1, right? So this was about the first passage that I would solve in the paper, and then I would switch to that time one, the second passage of this paper. So that you can do at your own leisure. And if you want me to solve any other passage of this paper, you can just write to inside IIM and we can come up with a video for the same. So now let's go through the verbal section and see what is in store there for us. The four sentences when sequenced would yield a coherent passage. So this is about para jumbles. I'll solve it later. The little topic of 4 of them can be put together. Identify the odd one out. So odd one out is something that I will look forward to. So I'll go forward with this answer the question. They often include, okay. So let's see what else the paper has. Will reader decide on the and key in the sequence of 4 numbers. Then again para jumble. Again para jumble. Odd one out. Okay. Odd one out. I'll do this first. And then there are summary. Choose a people view idleness. Okay. This is easy. I'll go. It is easy to read. I may not say it is easy because options might be very tricky for us. So this is something I'll prefer to solve. And then there is again a para summary question. Brazil's growth rate has been low, yet most Brazilians say their financial situation has improved. Okay. So we'll solve. I'll prefer solving para jumbles, odd one out, and then para summaries, odd one out, and then para jumble. So I can see the paper first contains para jumbles, then odd one out, and then para summaries. So I'll go in the reverse order. So guys, you have seen it just hardly took 2 minutes to go through the verbal ability section. So that's how you should strive to solve in the actual paper. So let's start from the reverse order, from the last question. Brazil's growth rate has been low, yet most Brazilians say their financial situation has improved and they expect it to even get better. This is because most incomes are rising fast with higher minimum wage and very low unemployment. The result is falling inequality and growing middle class. The result of economic stabilization, improved social security, and universal primary education. But despite recent improvements, the Brazilian economy is still painfully equal, with poor Brazilians paying the biggest share of their income in taxes and getting the least back in government services. Right. So the author says, though the growth rate of Brazil is low, but the people are under the impression, Brazilians say that their financial situation will improve and it will even get better in the future because most incomes are rising with higher minimum wages and very low unemployment. So why Brazilians says that their financial situation has improved? Because their incomes are rising, minimum wages have increased, and there's low unemployment. The result is falling inequality and a growing middle class. Okay? And the result of economic stabilization, improved social security, and universal primary education. And why there is growing middle class and falling inequality? Because there has been economic stabilization, improved social security, and universal primary education. But the author further says, but even after these recent developments, the Brazilian economy is still painfully unequal, with poor Brazilians paying the biggest share of their income in taxes and getting back least in government services. Most Brazilians feel that they have benefited from recent economic events, but the poor continue to be dealt unfairly by the state. Okay. So in para summary questions, if you have gone through the video that I have made for the same, you must have seen that the options, there is no wrong question, but we have to see which makes more sense, which is more related to the central theme. So every option might be right in their own way. So we have to see which is closely related to the central theme. Economic reforms have benefited many Brazilians, but they are unaware of their impending problems from rising inequalities in the society. Have benefited many Brazilians. So the author doesn't say that, they are not aware of the impending problems, but he says that the lower class has still many problems, and they are not being affected by these policies, because they have been taxed a lot. A major chunk of their income has gone into taxation. So option 2 is not the right answer. With the rising income and falling unemployment, most Brazilians are being misled into thinking that their economy is doing well. So most Brazilians are not misled. They my like the lower classes, something which are poorly treated or have been taxed, but people have got a lot many benefits as well. The author mentions that the growth rate is less, but at the personal level the people are saying that their income have rise, and it is for their income rose, and it is further expected to rise by them. And the author has provided reasons for the same, like social security, primary education, and so on. Good economic indicators have masked the unfair taxation of the poor that is likely to destabilize Brazilian economy in the next few years. So author Novia mentions that it is going to destabilize the Brazilian economy. He says that poor are taxed, but is it going to destabilize the economy? It doesn't find mention anywhere. With the rising income and falling unemployment, most Brazilians are being misled into thinking that the economy is doing well. Hmm, most Brazilians would be a far-fetched option. So option 1, which is very closely related to the central theme, is the correct answer. Most Brazilians feel that they have benefited from recent economic events, but the poor continue to be dealt unfair by the state. Hence, this is the right answer. So again, we have para summary questions. I'll solve that because I'm comfortable with it. And then there is a odd one out question. Okay, again, a breezy and easy thing, odd one out. Let's see if the question is so or not. A typical example is Wikipedia, with the overwhelming majority, where um, a typical example is Wikipedia, where the overwhelming majority of contributors are male, and so the available content is skewed to reflect their interests. Without diversity of thought and representation, society is left with distorted picture of future options, which are likely to result in augmenting existing inequalities. Gross gender inequality in the technology sector is problematic, not only for the industry-wide marginalization of women, but because technology designs embody the value of their makers, right? While redressing unequal representation in the workplace is a step in the right direction, broader social change is needed to address the structural inequalities embedded within the current organization of work and employment. If technology merely reflects the perspective of the male stereotype, then new technologies are unlikely to accommodate the diverse social context which they operate. So after reading it once, I figure out that something is being talked about technology, and how more number of men in the technology is not good, because if there are more number of men in the technology, it will reflect their viewpoints, their stereotypes, and female representation would be less, their ideas would be less, and the kind of diversity that we need in ideas would be lacking. So that is the central idea. So let's see which of the following doesn't go with the central idea. So after reading on the first go, I feel the third should be the starting, because it is introducing the idea which is, connecting all these sentences. Gross gender inequality in the technology sector is problematic, not only for the industry-wide marginalization of women, but because technology designs embody the value of their makers. Then there is an example of Wikipedia. The typical example is Wikipedia, with the overwhelming majority of contributors are male, and so the available content is skewed to reflect their interests. Without diversity of thought and representation, society is left with distorted picture. If technology merely reflects the perspective of the male stereotype, okay. So according to me, fourth should be the odd one out sentence, because the idea is on a new level new, because it is talking about inequalities, how to in work and employment, which is not the point. We're talking about technology, and the example of Wikipedia, the diversity of thought, the technology mainly reflects the perspective of male stereotypes. So the author wants to talk about technology, not about workplace and how we can, increase diversity at workplace. Hence, option 4 would be the correct answer. So guys, due to paucity of time, we'll be solving these many questions today. If you are facing any problem in any of the paper or this particular paper in particular, you can reach out to us and we'll solve that for you. That's all from my side today. Wish you all the best. Good luck.